All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into one of the great modern myths. We're talking about a story of a lost world, one that supposedly existed long, long before our own recorded history. And this wasn't just any world. It was a civilization so advanced, but so completely wiped out, that its very existence is now the stuff of legend. This is the story of the lost continent of Mu.
So let's start with a really wild question. What if humanity's true cradle, the place it all began, wasn't somewhere in the Fertile Crescent? What if it was actually a massive, super advanced continent that just vanished in a cataclysm? A place that some people truly believed was the motherland of all humankind.
So yeah, we're starting with the core claim here. And it's a theory based not on, modern archaeology, but on the discoveries of one single man who swore he found undeniable proof hidden away on some ancient tablets. And that one man is this guy, James Churchward. The entire story really hinges on his quest. See, he wasn't just some armchair theorist. He claimed he was a translator who spent over half a century, 50 years, on a global search to prove a secret he'd stumbled upon. And if that secret was true, well, it would completely rewrite all of human history.
So how did he find this all out? Well, the way he tells it, it sounds like something straight out of an adventure movie. While he was working in India, he says he befriended a high priest who eventually let him in on the existence of these sacred tablets. So Churchward then spends 2 years, think about that, 2 years of intense study to learn their supposedly dead language. And after all that, he claimed he was finally shown the tablets, and that they revealed the entire history of Mu.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting. Churchward said these symbols, which he found on the tablets, were the key to everything. To him, the lotus wasn't just a flower, no, it represented the entire continent of Mu. The Tau cross, that T-shape, that meant emergence or resurrection. And Ki, the leaping deer, get this, it symbolized how the first man didn't evolve but leapt into existence already fully formed. In his eyes, these symbols were the actual language of a lost world.
So, what did these tablets supposedly describe? Well, Churchward painted this incredible picture of a prehistoric paradise, a civilization that he believed was literally the center of the entire world.
And according to the texts, this was the population of Mu at its absolute peak. 64 million people, all organized into 10 different tribes, and all living under a single, unified government.
Churchward describes a world that sounds almost impossibly perfect. He imagined this huge landmass in the Pacific, basically one giant tropical garden. He wrote that it had no mountains, just these gentle, rolling plains and wide, calm rivers. The whole place was ruled by a priest-emperor named Ra-Mu, and the civilization called itself the Empire of the Sun.
And we're not talking about a primitive society here. No way. The people of Mu were master builders, expert navigators. Their ships sailed every single ocean, and they set up colonies all over the globe. So in this telling, the great ancient civilizations we know, Egypt, Greece, the Mayans, they weren't the pioneers. They were just the fading embers of this first great motherland.
But, as the story always goes, this vibrant world, this global empire, well, it was destined for a terrifying and very final end.
But the end, according to these tablets, didn't happen all at once. It actually started with a warning, a disaster that shook the continent but was then, forgotten over generations. And that just set the stage for the final, truly unimaginable horror.
The story of its fall is just this terrifying escalation. First, it started with earthquakes in the south. But then, generations later, the whole landmass itself starts to, heave and roll like it's an ocean wave. Then, fires from deep within the earth burst through the surface. And finally, the entire continent is torn apart and plunges into the sea in a single catastrophic night.
And just listen to this quote, which Churchward said came from a Mayan text called the Trowano manuscript. It really shows the sheer scale of the disaster. I mean, can you imagine that? The land itself turning liquid, heaving and rolling as if it were the ocean. It's an absolutely horrifying image.
And the human cost of it all? It's captured in this one desperate plea that Churchward claimed he found in a Tibetan monastery. You can almost hear the panic, a society at the height of its glory, dressed in jewels and fine clothes, facing total annihilation with just one single cry, Mu, save us.
So, after that cataclysm, what was left? Well, according to Churchward's theory, the destruction of Mu didn't just erase a continent, it ended up seeding the entire world with its broken legacy.
And this is Churchward's big explanation for the so-called mystery of all the different peoples found on remote Pacific islands. In his view, they aren't primitive people who sailed there. No, they're the descendants of a great civilization, stranded after the apocalypse, their incredible knowledge just lost as they fought to survive.
Now, check this out. This is one of Churchward's most striking claims, that our most basic, fundamental stories actually came from Mu. So, take the creation of woman. On the left, you see his translation of Tablet 1584. It talks about a single human with two essences being put to sleep, then separated into a man and a woman. And on the right, the story from Genesis. For Churchward, that parallel was just too obvious to be a coincidence.
And ultimately, Churchward argued that these weren't just a bunch of separate myths. He was convinced that Polynesian creation stories, Plato's philosophy, biblical narratives, they were all just fragmented memories, right? Echoes of one single real event, the life and the death of the motherland, Mu.
So, whether it's fact or just some elaborate fiction, the story of Mu has fascinated people for a century. It's this powerful reminder of just how fragile civilization can be. And it really forces us to ask, what else have we forgotten? What other histories, what other worlds might be out there, just waiting to be rediscovered?